Hi, welcome to Pursuitery. We're doing another Arduino Geek Out, although today we're not actually going to use the Arduino. We're going to get started with wearables, and that's going to lead to using a wearable Arduino. We're using the kit from SparkFun called Lilypad, and it has an Arduino-like controller uh, in it, a microcontroller in it. But we're just going to get started with wearables, which involves conductive thread. Here, I'm gonna switch my
Okay, here I
camera.
am.
Hey, Dr. Riley, thank you. I'm just explaining what we're doing here today, and then we'll do some intros. So
Okay.
we're going to use conductive thread and a battery holder that's going to hold a little coin cell battery like this. And we've got a needle, and we've got some little but powerful LEDs here. And I've got a glue gun, which is very helpful for these, just to tack things down, warming up. And I'm going to use an embroidery hoop. So let me show you, well, first of all, let's do some introduction. So I'm Howard Reingold, and I'm not much further than a novice at this myself, which I figure is okay. It's a beginner's mind, and these are supposed to be about peer learning. But I have done this before, so I sort of know the ropes of how this goes. Um, and you don't have to be me to start a geek out. If you wanted to do some peer learning around Arduino or something else with others, you can start one yourself. So Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm Double T on Twitter. I'm hopefully in the next couple of days, because that's all I have, making a costume for Burning Man 2014, which hopefully will include at least a couple blinky lights for visibility at night. And this Geek Out popped up. I thought it would be perfect to figure out how much I could actually do this week.
Well, you know, if you're not trying to control the light in a particular pattern, and you just want to have some lights that light up, this is probably the easiest, most cost-effective way to do that. I'd say that there are a couple of other things you could do. One is that you can buy um, lights that have built-in blinkies and just connect them in parallel, like we're doing here, and connect them to a battery. Probably you would want a 5-volt battery, like a 3 AA batteries in a battery holder. So that would give you the blinkies. These don't blink, so I'm going to show you what we've got here. If I can get this camera aimed right. And I'm going to turn the light off because the camera seems to be kind of self-adjusting itself. So I'm aiming it at, this is a coat that I've got, and I have sewn this battery pack on here. I put an extra switch on this, which is not necessary, but you can see how bright these are when you turn the switch on. So these are very, very, very tiny, but very, very bright pixels. If you want to get something a little bit larger that's just as bright, you can go to Adafruit and get their NeoPixels. But if you want to just have them on, this is the way to do it. If you want to have them blinking, you can either get a controller and do a little simple Arduino blink sketch, or you can get the kind that have the blinker included in it. So this is what we're going to do today. Like this, we're going to sew down a battery pack, and then we're not going to do the extra switch, but we're going to wire it with conductive thread in parallel to 3 LEDs. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side of this coat. So Dr. Reilly, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, sure. Hi, Double T. I'm Dr. Reilly. I'm sitting out in the Pataphysical Studios out here, out about 25 feet away from where Howard is sitting, here in beautiful Tam Valley, in just south of Mill Valley. And you're going to Burning Man, which I'll tell you, Burning Man was better last year.
Yeah, I was there the last year as well.
Howard and I were on Baker Beach at the first Burning Man events before it was even burned.
Yeah.
And I've served on the board of directors for Burning Man for they're one of their nonprofits for quite a long time. So Howard and I have made art projects together for a long time, and we somehow have stumbled into this geeky Adafruit Arduino pixel LED technology, and we're applying it to the Pataphysical slot machine, which I'm kind of showing you in the background there. It's something we've built that has a lot of this technology in it. So anyway, that's me. I'm Dr. Reilly. I'm also known as @AreWeReilly on Twitter, but I come and go infrequently, so I'll be there. Nice to see you.
Okay, so I think I'll use my regular camera here so you can see how I have this set up. In fact, I'm going to put it on.
Well, are we actually going to be sewing onto the fabric first, or should I be preparing to sew onto the fabric?
So this is how it looks when I've got it on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to duplicate that on the other side. I realized I wasn't speaking into the microphone. Did you hear me? What I said was I'm going to try to duplicate what I've got on one side on the other side. But when I got up and put this on, the embroidery hoop went flying. So it really helps with these things to use an embroidery hoop.
Okay.
So I'm going to go find it.
All right.
I mean, how far can something fly in a place like this? Embroidery hoop. So excuse the comedy of errors here. I'm going to start by putting an embroidery hoop on. So if you've got time before Burning Man it's only a few dollars. Just send away for an embroidery hoop, and it makes it a lot easier to do this.
All right. I'll make that note.
Double T, I worked on the temple this year. If you get up there, take a look at the temple.
Yes.
Can't miss it.
It's one of the harder art projects to miss.
So what are you doing for art this year, Thomas? You got a project?
Not myself personally. I'm also making a sign for a camp, which I've got half the pieces, and I have basically this week to cobble everything together and make it look neat, or at least neat enough. I volunteer as a Black Rock Ranger every year as well, so that takes up a lot of my on-playa time.
Yeah, it does. Well, thank you for that service.
Oh, well,
so, I think you can see that what I've got here is the embroidery hoop.
Right. So, yeah.
And then I'm going to use a glue gun to make this a little easier to get started.
Right.
You
So
know, if you use a glue
Howard, should
gun
we,
and you
Howard,
what?
should we be sewing, preparing a piece of material to sew this onto, or do we assemble this without cloth?
Um, this should go directly onto what you're going to sew it onto. So you
Okay.
could sew it onto your regalia or a piece of cloth. Up to you.
Or put it on
So
another piece of cloth and then put it on there.
so I'm yeah, you could put it on a piece of cloth and then put it onto. So if you can see, I'm situating the battery holder where I want it to be,
Mhm.
and then I'm just going to tack it down with a little hot glue.
Right. And with the hot glue, so it's meant to be permanent or semi-permanent.
Well, yeah, with the glue. Otherwise, that makes it a little harder to get off. You know, you can dissolve the bond of the hot glue with alcohol when you want to take it off.
Mhm.
But I just find it helps with these things when
Right.
you're
Mhm.
especially when you're trying to put all these little tiny things together, like I'm going to do. So I'm doing that so that the plus and the minus are on the same side, so that I can make a line here with the pluses lined up with the plus and the minuses lined up with the minus, so that I can sew a parallel circuit.
Right.
So now I'm going to take these LEDs that come in a stick, and I'm going to break a few of them off.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go for, boy, the writing is very tiny on these. So I'm going to go for a red. I guess I'll start with one. No sense having a bunch of spare parts lying around. Okay, I want to make sure that the plus is on the same side as my plus here. So if you can, I don't know, is that visible?
Well, your camera's a little out of focus.
Get a little better?
It's yeah, actually, yeah. Oddly enough, well,
Okay,
yeah,
so
actually,
you
that
can
now it looks
see
great.
I've got the red LED, and the plus side is up, just as the plus side is up on the battery holder. And I'm going to tack that down with just a little bit of hot glue.
Which one is the red LED?
It says red on one side.
Okay, I see it on the back here. I've got yellow, white, pink, and purple.
Yep. And you glue it with the side that says what color it is down. The LED's on the other side of that.
So we just break these off of this little strip here?
Yeah. Use a needle nose pliers works well with that. So I've glued one into place here, and then I'm going to break off another one. And I'm going to glue that into place again. I'm going to glue the side that says blue down towards the fabric, but I'm going to make sure that the plus is facing up the same direction as the battery holder's plus. Thing about hot glue is you always burn your fingers. Okay. You have a few seconds there to position it when you've glued it. So I think you can see I've got two of them, and I'm going to go for...
You actually glued the battery pack to the fabric?
Yeah, just a dot of glue. because you're going to sew it down.
Then you're going to sew it. Okay.
That's just to hold it there. Otherwise, it's really a pain trying to keep all these parts in place while you're sewing them.
Did you glue it with the battery? What's the best position for the battery to be? Facing up or?
Okay, have it facing up with the plus on top, and the plus on the side that you're going to put the LEDs. So if you look at the camera here, you'll see this is the plus in the battery pack, and this is the plus on the LED and the plus on the LED. So minus, 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 plus, plus, plus. Okay, so
right.
I've got a green one here.
So the battery won't slide out.
The battery should not be in the battery pack yet.
Right.
Okay, a little bit of glue on stuff. So I've got a red, a green, a blue. I can put a yellow on as well. No, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to make it symmetrical. Okay, so I've got these sewn down.
Right.
I mean, I've got these glued down. Nothing's been sewn yet.
Oui.
So now the conductive thread. You want to take about 2 feet of conductive thread. Much more than that gets to be a problem. So I'm just guesstimating about 2 feet. And I'm going to pull it off. And then thread the needle. Happily, the needles have fairly large, pretty large holes in it, so it's not much of a problem to thread it. And you know, you do the usual thing of doubling it.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the LED, did you say you want the plus sign up or down?
If you got the battery pack with the plus sign up, you should have the plus sign up as well. Up in the sense that it's on the same side of the battery pack as the plus.
Okay.
And up in the sense that you're looking at the plus, and the side that has the name of the color on it is what you glue down.
Got it.
And so I'm now knotting my thread.
Huh?
Old-fashioned overhand knot. I'm going to double that knot. But I'm not going to make it too much bigger than that because I want it to pass through.
So here's something important.
And I pull it tight. Yes?
When you put the hot glue on the LED,
Yeah.
you can't let the hot glue fill the hole because it'll be hard to get the needle through.
Yeah, just a dot of hot glue. So I'm cutting off the end after my knot on my thread. So okay, my thread is ready.
Right.
Dr. Reilly, you're going to get your thread ready? You're working on that?
On my what?
Your thread ready?
Well, I'm still gluing down the LEDs here.
Okay, dokie. So I'll wait for you for a second.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I got 2 more.
So Thomas, do you ever get parts from Adafruit or Sparkfun?
Actually, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, so we have a local supplier called Solar Robotics.
Oh, okay, and they carry the Sparkfun stuff?
Actually, I'm just going to take a look at Solar Robotics has in stock right now. And also I'm a member of the local hackerspace called Protospace.
Okay,
And,
so they probably have the Lilypad stuff there.
Yes, there's people that have. I also know the group of people that are part of Make Fashion.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so I am getting started, well, waiting for Dr. Reilly here, by poking my needle up from the inside
Mhm.
through the far plus sign
Right.
on the, okay, and I'm going to put several stitches through here.
So are you doing a double loop through the thread into the needle?
Yeah, it's a loop,
Okay.
so the thread is doubled. So I'm coming up from the bottom through the hole.
Well, I'm sorry, Howard. Where did you start
Twice.
with the battery or with the
I'm
LED?
starting with the battery holder
Okay.
and the plus on the far side of the battery from your LEDs. Got that?
Almost.
And you're going to put 3 looping.
Would you say about 2 feet of this thread?
Yeah, yeah, and then thread it, double it, and tie a knot in the end.
Thread it, double it, and tie a knot in the end.
Okay, I'm going to wait for you to catch up here a little bit.
Okay, I'm almost tying a knot in the end. So when do you leave to go to the playa, Double T?
The plan is for next week, Tuesday the 19th. So I basically have a week to finalize everything I'm supposed to be doing, or even the stuff I want to do.
Nice. What's the name of your camp?
Kanakistan with a K.
Uh-huh.
Seeing how most of us are from Canada.
I'm sorry, where again did you say you are in Canada?
Oh, Calgary.
In Calgary. All
Yes.
right.
Okay, so I'm gonna start up from the bottom on the far left plus sign.
Yeah, the plus sign that's on the opposite side of the LEDs.
Got it. I'm starting from the back.
Start from the back, come up through the hole, loop it, and give it 3 stitches that way.
3 stitches.
Yeah, come up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down, and then you end up with your needle on the underside.
Okay. Okay.
And pull them tight because this is your conductor here. You want to make a good strong contact. Okay.
I'm almost there. Hold on. Okay, there's two loops up. Yeah, I can see how a hoop would be an advantage here.
Yeah.
I've done something here. I might have to undo this.
Yeah, I understand. This is not the first time I've done this. The first time was much more of a comedy of errors.
Yeah. And now my hot glue on the LEDs are coming off. Okay.
Well, the hot glue just has to hold it on long enough for you to sew them.
Okay.
Thomas, are you driving to the playa?
Yes, it's well. I usually take 2 days. It's about 24, 25 hours
Yeah.
if one were to drive directly, and I've only done that once with a crew of people. Um, it's I mean, just because it's possible doesn't mean it's recommended. So,
Yeah, definitely.
mhm. And I see on the solarrobotics.com website that there is an assortment of Lilypad items.
Yeah. Now you can get blinkers
Mhm.
too. That if you're not concerned about how it's programmed, they will have pre-programmed random blinkers that you can put in a series circuit. How's it coming, Doctor? Really?
Well, I'm putting a new knot in to my thread, and that seems to be challenging because my fingers are too big. But I think I may have just gotten a nice knot. All right, there we go. All right, so now I'm pulling that through. I'm going to do this again here.
All right.
So where am I? Down through the bottom. I'm going to come back up in here.
Yeah, pull that to the end of the knot so you make sure that the knot holds. And then give it 3 stitches through, ending up with your needle sticking up from the bottom.
Okay, so let's see. There's 2, one more, and then I think I'm there.
Okay, then.
Okay, so my needle is now up.
Okay, coming up from the bottom. Now you want to sew carefully around the battery pack, and you want to make it 3 or 4 small stitches. Don't make large stitches, but you want to sew your way over to the other plus. Also, make sure that, well, with mine sewing directly onto the coat, I want to make sure I'm not sewing it to the other side of the coat, which is something I did last time, which was a pain in the butt because you've got to take it all out and do it again. So I've learned a few things about what not to do. So again, smaller stitches, like 2 or 3 or 4, to get over to the other positive pin. Even though it's a hole, they call it a pin.
It's a low budget pin.
Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to show you I've sewn these 3
Yeah.
stitches, and then I'm coming up from the bottom again through the hole. And I'm going to give that 3 stitches to make sure it's stitched on well. Definitely an art to poking up through the bottom and coming up through the hole.
Something stripped here. What happened? Something broke. Damn.
Oh no.
My knot came untied.
Well, I made 2 knots to make sure at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to...
I made them about a half an inch from the end, and then I cut off the remainder.
So does the thread have to be one continuous thread?
No, as long as everything's connected.
So I can tie this off and redo a new...
You could if you can tie off that first positive,
Yeah.
then you can do another thread from that positive to the other positive. It's wire. You know, think of it as wire or solder. You have to maintain a continuous connection, but it can be done in sections if that's what you want. If that's what, you know, you're forced to do.
Okay. So I'm wondering if I should just start over here, which I think I'm going to do.
Okay. Okay, I have now succeeded in putting 3 stitches through that other positive hole. As soon as I can get one more stitch through. All right. Come up through there. And now I'm going to put a couple of stitches between it and the positive pin of the first LED, which I have lined up correctly. Having done this before incorrectly, it makes you do a bunch of stitching that you really don't want to have to do. And I'm going to put a couple of stitches in here to get to the next connection, which is that positive pin on the first LED. So I've sewn my way over.
Right.
And then I'm going to come up through this hole, plus hole on the first LED, and I'm going to put a couple of stitches through. Man, I hope this thread is going to be long enough, or I'm going to have to tie it off and do another one. But like I told Dr. Reilly, it is, as long as you keep the continuous connection, you can rethread your needle. Aha, my glue has come undone on this, so it's a good thing I've got a couple of stitches in it. Okay. Again, make sure that those stitches are tight. One more stitch in here.
Yeah. So for this conductive thread, is it the one with the nylon base?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't feel like nylon. It feels more like cotton.
Yeah, I was just
What are
looking
the what are the alternatives offered?
I believe I'm just looking here at people talking about using conductive thread, and apparently, depending on the substrate, there's nylon, there's stainless steel. Apparently, the stainless steel is more easily solderable to a pin. With the nylon, it would melt.
Yeah. So
Basically.
I'm not, I'm not soldering. I'm using the thread as a connector, and that's why I'm putting 2 or 3 stitches through every time to make sure that I've got a solid connection there.
It's a twofer. Yeah, it attaches the LED, and it also makes the electrical contact.
Yeah. Okay, I've stitched my way through 3 times through the positive pin of the first LED, and then I've taken a couple of stitches to get over to the positive pin of the next LED.
Right.
And I'm going to put 3 stitches through that one as well. You begin to get the hang of the poking up from the bottom.
Yeah, I'm starting over again.
Okay, you know where to start.
I'll just keep following along with you.
Yeah. Tell me when you've got the battery pack sewed down from positive to positive, and you're ready to go to the LEDs.
Okay.
So I'm now sewing my way over to the third LED with 3 small stitches. Keeping them tight as I go along. You know, I'm going to run out of thread here, and I'm going to thread up a new needle. So that's when you can catch up with me, Dr. Riley.
Okay. All right, I'm rethreading my needle.
So Dr. Riley and I used to participate in a camp, in center camp, called the Mineshaft Society. That, as many camps do, got larger and larger until it imploded of its own magnificence.
It's analogous to Stellar Revolution, where yeah, it's where the bigger, brighter camps. The cliche would be it's the candle that burns brightest burns out fastest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Bliss Dance and Peter Hudson?
The sculpture?
Yep.
The fantastic giant sculpture that, yes.
Yep. Those are friends of ours. I have a studio over near on Treasure Island in the middle of San Francisco Bay with them. And Peter Hudson finally assembled his zoetrope, which will be on display out in the deep playa.
So I've sewn the final positive terminal of the third LED, and I'm knotting it and terminating it here, and I'm going through that knot a couple of times to make sure it holds solid.
Well, I must say that one of the hardest things to do here is to knot the end of your thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, it apparently, depending, it'll undo just because the surface friction isn't quite enough.
Yeah, it's a little slippery, this stuff. So I make multiple knots when I'm terminating, which is what I'm doing right now. So I've got this last one sewn through the last hole of the last LED here, and I've triple knotted it. Now, you can kind of ensure the integrity of these by dotting a little bit of glue on them on the back side. So I may do that later, but you can see I've got my I'm going to knot it once more just to make sure. Because it's, you know, once these things become unknotted, then it's a pain.
Yeah.
Like I just discovered.
Well, Dr. Riley, your experience is very much like mine was the first time, except you haven't done what I did, which is I sewed the front of the coat to the back of the coat and had to undo all my stitches. So I've now got a continuous line from positive on the battery to positive to positive to positive on the LEDs, and it's knotted off, and I cut off the knot. So now I'm going to rethread the needle. I guess I'll save this little piece of thread because I'm a hoarder. And I only recently recognized my hoarding propensities when my wife pointed out that I have saved a lifetime supply of popsicle sticks. They're handy for gluing stuff and other things, but I've got, you know, more than I need for a few years. So I am now threading the needle again, and I'm going to repeat the process. Again, this is a parallel circuit, so the plus is connected to the plus is connected to the plus, it's connected to the battery, and the minus is connected to the minus is connected to the minus is connected to the battery. And the LED itself, as in all parallel circuits, will make the connection. So if you lose an LED, the others will still light up, as opposed to like a Christmas tree arrangement, which is in series, where you lose one and sometimes they all go out.
Yeah, it's the old school serial Christmas tree lights.
But serial circuits enable you to have finer control of individual LEDs from an Arduino controller. I think for costuming purposes, unless you've got an elaborate plan that you started on months ago, the best way to do it is to get the LEDs that have the blinking built in, and let them blink randomly.
Yeah, yeah. It's there have been people that have made basically a video screen.
Yeah.
Which of course would mean each pixel would have to be individually addressable.
Yeah, and you can do that with NeoPixels, or you can buy LED belts. They're a little expensive. They're about $60 each, but they've got a string of LEDs that are individually addressable, and there's a bunch of scripts for different patterns. Okay, yes. So I'm going to start over again and do the same thing from the negative side, coming up through the hole on the negative pole on the far side of the battery holder, the side of the battery holder away from the row of LEDs, making sure that knot holds, and I'm going to go through 3 times. Dang, I've seemed expert compared to the first time I did this, let me tell you. I probably shouldn't speak too soon. Okay, I got a couple of stitches in here. I'm going to pull them tight as I can.
I found that it helps to stitch behind when you're crossing over from one positive to the other on the battery. I'm kind of stitching behind, and that will hide the stitch.
Well, just make sure that you don't make long stitches. Make a number of smaller stitches is what they recommend. So where are you, Dr. Riley?
Well, I'm about to stitch into the second positive on the battery holder.
Oh, okay, good. It'll go more quickly after that.
Okay, now going over from the battery holder to the first LED, can I just do one stitch behind and then go over, or do I have to do a bunch of stitches?
Do a couple of stitches so that you don't have any stitch that's longer than about 1/8 of an inch.
Oh, really? Huh.
Or, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. I'm trying to remember why they tell you to do that, but I don't. But I do remember that the instructions do say to do that. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing that you're doing over on the negative side. Now, about finished putting 3 stitches through the second of the negatives. And now I'm going to stitch my way over to the first of the negative LEDs, LED pins. Bring in a few stitches here. Get there. We're going to have this lit up before you know it.
Well, this is geeky.
Yes, well, this is a geek out. How you doing, Dr. Reilly? Got to your
I'm
first LED yet?
almost there. Now, I noticed you spaced your LEDs about half an inch apart.
Yeah, that's just an aesthetic decision.
Okay, so you could have put them in a circle around the battery pack.
Yes, as long as you go positive to positive to positive, negative to negative to negative, does not have to be linear.
Is that anything like pataphysics is to metaphysics as metaphysics is to physics?
It must be. Since you said it, it is so.
Double T, do you know about pataphysics?
In what context?
Well, it's a science of imaginary solutions.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm sure it would come in useful in some situations.
I think so. Dr.
On the playa, for sure.
Dr. Einbein, how many stitches in the positive of the LED do I want? 3?
Yeah,
So every loop that has a connection to a piece of hardware, we want 3 stitch loops onto it.
that's correct.
Um,
I'm now homing in on the second negative pin of an LED, and soon I will be on my way to the third pin, which is actually the last step before putting in a battery. So,
Well, I seem to have gotten a little bit of a looping on the back side of my stuff. I'm not sure why.
well, you mean like a stitch didn't pull through all the way?
Yeah, so what should I do about that?
If you can tie the ends and cut out the middle of the loop, or you could just use your glue gun to
Secure
tack
it?
that down, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh, what have I done here? Seems to be a little bit of an issue. What I did was I poked my needle through the middle of my thread and causing the thread to fray a little bit. So I'm putting an extra loop in through the second one here because I did that.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm on my way to the final third negative pole, the third LED in my little array. I see no reason why this should not work when I plug the battery in, but you never know. So you all know who Stuart Butterfield is?
Unfortunately, I do not.
Well, he's a fellow Canadian because his father was an American draft dodger, went to Canada, and he created a game called Game Never Ending that was a failure, but one of the features turned into Flickr, which they sold to Yahoo.
Okay.
And there's recently a profile of him and his new company in Wired. His parents were such hippies, they named him Dharma. So he named himself Stuart when he was old enough.
He renamed himself.
Renamed himself Stuart, yeah.
Stuart Butterfield.
Yeah. Based in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not too happy with the way I've sewn this.
Yeah, that's the way it goes the first time. It is a bit of a frustrating
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
Okay, now I am going to try to sew this last one, tie it up. So I don't know whether you can see this, but I'm trying to knot this
Mhm.
tightly.
Mhm. So,
Yes, did you have a question?
yeah, yeah, I know it's sort of the finishing off the end. It's like terminating.
Yeah,
Um, well, it is an electronic component. It's
it is a terminating.
yeah. If you had a non-conducting bead, I suppose you could ornament the end with an ornamental glass bead or whatever
Yeah,
looks neat.
I'm just being extra.
Hmm.
Now, I didn't sew it to something, did I? Oh man, tell me I didn't. I did. I did. Ugh, God, I hate this. I have to undo my last stitch. I don't know whether you can see this, but I'm trying to thread this backwards
Uh-huh.
on the needle to undo this last stitch, which see I sewed it to the front here. Ah, ah, I just popped it. Okay, so I am going to resort to hot glue here
Okay.
to make sure my stuff doesn't get undone.
Yeah, my stitching skills are need to be honed a little bit.
So I'm putting some blobs of hot glue on the inside here.
Well, I've even screwed it up on the front, so I should have practiced on something else besides my jacket. And then I just broke it.
Uh, Dr. Reilly, I did that myself. What you see here is not the first time. I had to take it all apart and do it again. You may have actually witnessed me doing that on one Saturday morning.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm waiting for my hot glue to dry here. You see, I've put a bunch of hot glue on the inside because I'm not sure that my terminations are that perfect. The hot glue will help. Takes a second to cool, and then we're going to put the battery pack in.
so if I've broken a stitch in the middle of this positive connection here, I can go back in and resew over top of it to connect it.
As long as you've got a connection. Okay, I'm going to take this hoop off. Yep, glue's still drying. Wait for glue to dry. Okay, I'm going to put the camera back on me here. And as soon as this is dry, well, actually, I don't have to wait for it to be dry. I'm going to take the battery and put it into the pack. And now the moment of truth. I am going to turn the switch on. Hey! Here's Johnny in business.
All right.
All right. So, pretty simple. And you could make that array as many as you want.
What's the maximum practical number of LEDs?
For the battery, I'd say 6 or 7 or 8 to a battery
All right.
of
And
these very bright ones,
mhm.
or to these 3-volt batteries. Now, you could get a whole string of those
NeoPixels?
the blinking ones, the self-blinking ones. You can get a string of those, of 15 of those, and connect those in parallel to a 4.5 volt battery pack, a pack of 1.5 volt batteries. So I'm taking the hoop off.
Oh, yeah.
The glue quite dry. Glue's dry. I'm gonna put this on. So now I've got it on. I'm going to turn them both on. And I'm in business here.
All right.
This doesn't really do justice to it, but they're bright.
Uh-huh.
See it from a few feet away. All right. So, Dr. Reilly, we can consult on repairing this.
What?
Thomas, thanks for showing up.